So, Carl, I'd like to ask you some questions for Blueprints for Awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And these questions are designed to unfold the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. Ramana proposed the fundamental question, who am I? Who are you?
That what is the you am I? No idea. Simply no idea of what I am or what I'm not. There's a simple total absence of any idea of what I am or what I'm not. That I am. But this is not an answer to anything.
Many Western seekers are looking for enlightenment as if it is an experience. What is enlightenment?
Enlightenment is to see that that what is self is ever enlightened, and that what is not the self will never be enlightened. And then to be that what is self. And then there is no before and no after in it.
Maybe you could just unfold that a little bit.
Yeah, the simple dropping out of time or no time. The simple dropping of that me, which was simply a false self. And this dropping is an absolute dropping of any sense of existence. So the very first notion of existence dropped by the simple recognition that that what one is prior to the very first notion of existence. But not knowing it then by any experience. Just seeing that this first experience of the notion of existence is not what you are. So in this non-experience of that what you are, in the experience that whatever you can experience is not what you are, you simply rest. And this is not something big or something small, this is simply a little aha. Nothing special. It's like a split second, everything is done.
So when you say aha, you mean it's like a recognition?
Yeah, it's like a more recognition than a realization. It's a recognition of that what you are is ever realized. You cannot get more realized than it already is. By being that what is. To be that, that's all.
So then it just takes a moment.
Just a split second, whatever. There is no time involved. This is not an happening in time or in no time. This is simply dropping out of all ideas. To be or not to be. In this never doubting state of selflessness, where there is not even an idea of self.
Are there any qualifications for enlightenment?
To be the self, yes.
For example, practices? Is there any practices that can take you to enlightenment?
Every practice will take you to that, what you are. But no special practice. Whatever one is doing is the very best he can do. And that what he is doing came from that what is self, from the source too. And there is no question that whatever is done by self and to become that what is self. So as soon there is consciousness, consciousness is self-inquiring. This self-inquiry for sure will lead to that what is prior to consciousness. But there is no special technique to it. So the technique of Ramana, of who am I, is just a pointer to that, because this is not a technique, this is simply getting reversed that what came out as I am so-and-so to become who am I, and then to this unknown openness of existence. But in spite of the technique it will happen, not because. Because the self has no cause or cannot be by any control, by any technique controlled to be the self.
And for example, there's some common practices like meditation and mantras and chanting and so on.
Yeah, it's all wonderful. It's all coming out of this very same source, but all the mantras and all the meditation cannot make the self being the self. You cannot become through anything that what you are.
Because you already are.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And if this could be controlled by any technique of mantra or sadhana or tapas, the self could be controlled. And this self, I don't know. Because the self which can be controlled needs a second self to be controlled from. But there's simply no second self who can be controlled by the first self. So actually, I don't know. It's all okay, but in spite of all the techniques or doings, that what can never be done is.
And for example, these practices are somehow working on the mind, yeah? So would you say it's a prerequisite that the mind should become quiet, like sattvic?
No. There will be no mind sattvic enough to become that what is self. And the very idea that the mind has to purify itself is dirty. So this word purification is in itself dirty, because it implies that the self is dirty and has to be purified. And the self would need some purification to be the self. It's simply an idea coming out of that what it wants to be. It's a survival system of that what is me, who wants to survive in the idea I have to be purified, and by knowing I can never be pure enough for that what is self. So I can stay as I am, as this little me. So it's a trick of this me to stay as a me. So whatever comes out of this I thought is the survival system of this I thought. We cannot annihilate that what is the I thought. Only that grace of the self, becoming aware of that what is self, this absoluteness in what self is, then this goes an automatic annihilation of that what is not self. But not because the I thought wants something. So that's why it's called grace only. And by the grace of the self will rest in the self, but not by any idea of that what comes out of an idea.
So you're saying that no practice really makes any difference. There's no prerequisite.
In spite of all the practices, it will happen. Because there is no way out. That the self will rest again in that what is self, but not because whatever that what is not self has done or not done. So it's totally blind to what is done or not done, because in that what is self, nothing is ever done, nothing happens. So no happening can that make what is self, because it's not part of the happening. And then this divine accident, by that self drops out of the idea of existence, is a divine accident, but cannot be caused by any wanting it to have an accident, driving into something. No. As it all spontaneous came out of the self, it goes spontaneously back to the self. And not because, in spite of all, happens, but in time and no time. That's only as I see it. I don't say this is true. It's just that what I see, as it is, that this self is uncaused and can never be caused by anything. Otherwise it would be not that freedom what is freedom itself, which doesn't need any freedom of mind, freedom of whatever circumstance. This freedom is independent of any circumstances. And no circumstance can create that what is self.
Ramana said self-inquiry is the most direct route to realizing the self. What do you say about self-inquiry?
Yeah, because self-inquiry is all there is. At the moment of consciousness, there is a consciousness striving for that perfection it just left. Because consciousness already is imperfect. Because consciousness has to be conscious to be consciousness. But that what is self doesn't need any consciousness to be the self. So consciousness is depending on the self, but the self is not depending on consciousness. So consciousness is dependent on consciousness, or whatever, formless, form, whatever it's consciousness. But that what is self is not depending on whatever consciousness is doing or not doing. So that consciousness, this self, as consciousness, already in this imperfection, is striving for perfection, going back to that what is source. So whatever is done in consciousness is for this reason, for the longing to become that again what one is.
So self-inquiry is like a reminder. It's not like a technique for you.
No. Self-inquiry is actually the realization of that what is self. And this is infinite. This is, as self is infinite, the consciousness which comes out of the self as realization is infinite. So this self-inquiry is without expectation. It's only self-inquiry, but without any expectation of any result. That is pure consciousness as awareness. Total self-inquiry, but not expecting to get anything out of it, any knowledge or anything, simply by as self-realization. So there is no goal in it. There's simply self-inquiry, but without any goal.
And could you say how to conduct it? How to do self-inquiry? What are the steps?
Whatever step you have done was leading to that moment right now and here, and that's where actually that what is self wanted from you to do as consciousness. And the next step will be done by that consciousness too, in the very right direction, always forward to the self, and there's no way out. One day this will totally be still in itself, and it will simply drop out of that what is the illusion of time and no time, and that what is consciousness, but not by any step. Simply because it's simply totally still in itself. Then it's resting in itself again. As a spider sets down again and withdraws this net, and is again that what is the very self. But not what all the steps in this web are always leading to that what is a spider. But the spider has to be being totally still, being that what is self. And only this stillness of the self. But this cannot be done by any step. Because that one who is walking stops totally in that, actually seeing that there is no way to go, there is no self to reach. And this stopping is not any action. This is simply the absolute seeing, hey, that's all. Just stop. But that can only the self can do, this total stop of acceptance. This resignation can only be done by the self. It's a resigning from the idea to gain something out of the world. It's a total resigning or resignation in that what you are. And then you see that what you are as complete as it is, and always will be, and always was. But then all the steps are okay. They're all done by the self, to the self. But no step will lead you to that what is the self. So the self who simply stops totally in itself, simply is realizing his completeness. That's all. But not by any step.
Are you saying that this moment of recognition is just coming from grace or by grace?
It's coming as an accident. Because it's not meant like this. There is no cause, there is actually no necessity for it. Because the self is ever resting in the self. So for the self there is no necessity of something to have been done or found or anything. The self is a self with or without knowing it. There is no need for knowledge or anything or realization. So when this happens, that awareness becomes aware of itself, has no cause. That this awareness of awareness happens. I don't know why. There is no why. But first you can say from the I am so and so to the I am, there are many ways to recognize that you are not this body, mind, organ, that you're neti. Then you go to this formless consciousness. But from the oneness of formless consciousness, there's always stepping back to the separation. And one time, out of the blue maybe, out of no reason, the I am goes just simply is totally still and becomes the I. And then the I standing by itself cannot stay by itself, and it will simply sink into that what is prior to the I. But not because something happened here or there. Simply by dropping this, by no one knows why, and dropping then this one. The I stands there, and then the I by itself cannot stay alone, and then it drops into the I of the self. So it's a natural way, actually. But not by any cause or by any meaning or by any something you can do. So that's what it's called is pure grace. Because all the way there is no control. No free will and no control, because you cannot want what you want to do next. So this want, what comes automatic out of the blue of the existence, out of the self, as an idea, is already the direct order from the self to that what is not the self, to become again what you are. There are only direct orders from that what is the source. In this way I don't know any technique, but there is always an absolute technique of the self. So in the self never makes any mistake. So in all this there's perfection. And perfection works wonderful.
So in a sense you're actually talking about surrender, yeah? The path of surrender. Is that right?
Yeah, just simply to see that you can only accept that will not be your acceptance. It will never be your acceptance when acceptance happens. When acceptance happens as out of grace, when this compassion happens, you will be annihilated by that grace, by that acceptance. Because with this acceptance, no separate me can stay. Because no separate me can bear this acceptance without being any judgment or any separation. Because this me lives out from separation, but in acceptance there's simply no second self to accept. So it's a total stillness of acceptance. And in this stillness of acceptance there is no separation possible. So the separation gets naturally erased by simply being as you are, absolute still. This nomenon, and not that fleeting shadow which comes and goes as me. That's why it's totally grace and cannot be done. So the wish cannot wish for wishlessness. When wishlessness happens, then the wish will be erased by wishlessness, where it came from. But no wish will ever go back to that what is wishlessness.
When Romano is asked, when will the realization of the self be gained, he replied, when the world, which is what is seen, has been removed, there will be realization of the self, which is the seer. What is the true understanding of the world?
The world is there as at the moment the I appears. And then out of this I, spider, it creates a world, surrounded by creation. As the I, and then the I am as formless consciousness, and then this creation force of I am creating all the informations, what we would call world. So this all is consciousness in form, coming out of the non-form of formless consciousness into this information of universal world, whatever you call it, manifold aspects of what is consciousness. So consciousness takes all the forms and creating them by simply getting into form. So there's information of consciousness. This is world. So that what is world is actually consciousness. Like Shiva in dancing with himself and creating out of this dance this universe. But all the way, the essence of all what was form or non-form is consciousness. All the way. So all there is consciousness, as cosmic consciousness.
And how to remove the world?
By being as you are. If there is self and nothing but self, then there is no world anymore. But that's the only way out. To see there was never any such thing as world. That world is in its essence consciousness. And consciousness is all there is. And even that to be that is what is prior to consciousness. Because consciousness is your absolute realization, but you are not your realization. You are that what is realizing itself through consciousness. So you are the very source of consciousness. It's not even consciousness, but consciousness is your infinite body, or your infinite realization. And then the world is, and then there was never any world or mind or any obstacles at all. Because then in this, at this, everything collapses. And that's the only realization I know. To see that the self is ever realized. And then for this there is nothing to do or not to do. And simply be that. What is self.
It has been suggested that the mind must be destroyed for liberation to occur. Do you have a mind?
Yet you may say there is a functioning of understanding, what one would call mind, but for me it's a functioning of understanding of consciousness. But there is no mind. It's like a working functioning of consciousness. What is like keeping this body alive and eating and all this functioning of remembering when the fly goes and all this. So there's a functioning of a working mind, you would say. But actually there is no my mind, and there is not my functioning. There is consciousness in the functioning of understanding or of doing something. So the all doer is consciousness. And doing it to consciousness, in consciousness, and in the time of consciousness, whatever. But there is no such thing as my mind or my consciousness. So this idea of my is simply not there. And that this my is not here or mine, yours is not there. So I don't see any owner anymore. Because the owner here is non-existent. Or the doer or whatever you call it. So without this ownership, there is no mind anymore. There's simply a functioning of consciousness. And to be that total functioning of consciousness, in essence, is what you are, or what I am. And what you are too. There's no separation in it. So in the oneness of consciousness we are one. But as self, even prior to oneness, we are that what is self. And there is even not an idea of oneness even more. Because there is not even one. Because there is no one without a second.
Ramana used the term monanassa to describe a state of liberation, meaning destroyed mind. How to destroy the mind?
Yeah, the only way to destroy the mind is to see there is no such ownership of mind, or there is simply no second. That all there is consciousness. And in this oneness of seeing, or in this seeing that there is no second consciousness, there is simply no second addition of consciousness, then that what is mind must be is consciousness too. There is no separation in it. So there is no my mind or your mind or any mind. There is simply consciousness in action. And then in this functioning of understanding, you can call it mind, like labeling it, but it's still consciousness. So this is a total destruction of my mind, because there is only a mind as long as there is my mind. But without this idea of my, this first thought of me, as I thought, there is no mind anymore. So by the destruction of the I thought, the first root thought of the mind, of the my, then there is no mind anymore. It never was. This is a total destruction by being as you are, being that what is. Then there was never any mind and never will be. Because there is simply no my existence. And only then there is a total destruction and a total annihilation of that what is mind, when that what is you is the selflessness, which even doesn't know a self. And what the self is and what the self is not. That's what is called the cosmic consciousness as awareness. Totally aware of that what is absolute self.
What about vasanas, the tendencies of the mind? Must these be removed before self-realization can become permanent?
They will be removed by the awareness arising of your absolute nature. And only the awareness of your absolute nature, being that what is self, is this holocaust for that what is its little me, and the vasanas which can come with them. So in this awareness, they will burn out, naturally. And this is the only vasana I know, to become aware of that absolute nature of what you are. And in this awareness, it's like a hellfire for that what is not you. And in this hellfire, all gets burned down to ashes, and even the ashes destroys. And then only the self is left, and this awareness about that absolute nature of what you are. And only this awareness is the absolute vasana, to being that what is, but by not knowing it.
So in your own experience, there was some moment of aha, yeah? And did you find then that Carl's vasanas, Carl's stuff would come up?
Even more.
Even more.
In this fire, it really comes up.
Right, right. And there's no attachment, so you just look. You just see this stuff coming up.
Yeah, you just see.
And by the seeing, somehow it's destroyed.
By that acceptance, you are. In this acceptance, there is no control system running anymore. So the control system is an armor around you, or the armor, what you would call a personal consciousness, gets distracted. So without this control system of the me being in control, without the attention for this third eye, whatever me is, or this I thought, everything, this energy really becomes alive again. Like consciousness really comes into fire. And in this all the whatever was there as memory effects pop up. But in this hellfire of awareness, it simply dissolves. And this body-mind memory, even the whole memory of the whole universe comes with it. So it's not only done by this body-mind, like my history. It has to be the history of all mankind, and even further. The whole history of the whole universe gets burned in this awareness. So the whole time gets burned out. The simple, all the ideas what came with time has to get burned out in this timelessness, in this acceptance of being that what is. So it's eternal burning out, eternal becoming an totally empty heart. And in this emptiness you are, the emptiness of it.
Somewhere, I think on your website, I read that you talked about having a period of intense migraines. Was that connected to this burning out in the hellfire?
Yeah, it was part of it. It comes with it. Mm-hmm. Because all the cells wake up in a way. Mm. All this consciousness, which is cells, like information of cells, without any controller as me, they will simply wake up as in their nature, and they will become pure energy. Then comes migraine, and or whatever is, maybe the resistance has to be broken, and all this, until this runs freely, without any resistance. But this takes a while. This is a side effect of this awareness. But it's only a side effect. It's not the result of something. It's maybe a side effect, but all happened in that
So can you give us a sense in your personal, I mean, it went on for some years or just a few months?
It was 10 to 15 years.
Really?
It takes time.
Right. And for example, now it doesn't happen anymore, or still sometimes a vasana will come up?
No, now when some people sitting in front of me, something happens. I take over the total experience of that happening in that person. So I feel this energy, this rising, this awareness or this consciousness rising, and the kundalini or this. But it's like an impersonal experience. So I still have this feelings, I have this compassion, because whatever is in this, whatever senses around me, I feel. There's simply there's no armor anymore. It simply goes straight to what I am. But as there's an open in, and there's an open out. So it's a total fluent, like a functioning of consciousness, without any Because without any judgment or anything of this energy, it's free running. There's nothing to do with it. So the same with the speaking, it just comes by itself. There's simply no one who is intensively speaking or something.
And so when you're alone, the mind, you say, is not there, so there's just the silence, or some old Carl stuff will pop up?
So the consciousness is always doing something. The functioning of consciousness, this understanding functioning, the self-inquiry goes on. There is no beginning and no end in it. But that's what I am is never involved in it. There's simply a functioning of consciousness of some self-inquiry, whatever comes, but without any expectation of a result of finding something. So there is some the consciousness action of, like now, making this speech or something, words coming out. So there's a functioning of this body-mind organism, perfectly running or not, but without expectation. That is without mind, because mind means having an expectation to come out of this understanding, finding results or finding some better places, having an advantage out of some thinking. But this thinking is a working thinking without any advantage. It simply runs. So it's no mind anymore. So there are thoughts free running, but there are no thoughts anymore. There's free consciousness in action. As it always was, actually. It was never such thing as mind there. It was always consciousness in a total functioning of understanding or not. The main point is there is simply no ownership anymore for all this. So the owner dropped totally, or the doer, whatever it's called, is me. And without this owner, who cares what is running or not running there? It's this talking now, it's like something happens, but actually nothing happens. But who cares what comes out of it? It's simply okay. Because this is a wonderful aspect coming out of this openness of what you are.
Yeah, I mean, just meeting you the other day, I mean, I knew you were a little bit tired and you had other people kind of crowding around somehow. So I wanted to be quick, but, you know, the way you just said yes, you know, it's like, you know, if I would have said, oh, I've got a ticket for Honolulu, you know, would you like to come tomorrow? You know, you just would say yes in a way, you know, because you can go to Honolulu or you can stay here, you know, it's not a big deal really.
That's what I mean. I'm totally helplessness. So if somebody comes, like one day there was this director from the skip school who wanted to open a new building or something, and I'm sitting there, there's simply yes, yes, no, no, yes, no, and then simply yes stops, okay, yes. So I go and then I make this puja and thing. I'm totally like a puppet, played by something. But I enjoy it mostly. This freedom of having no choice is wonderful. Played by that what one is. Wonderful. That I enjoy most. This freedom of having no choice. Great. So it's the same as you. If there would be an instant no, there would be no. Okay, but yes, okay too. So what?
It's just like an enormous relaxation, yeah? It's like living in paradise because everything becomes a flow, yeah? Everything becomes easy. There's nothing to decide, there's nothing to think, yeah? You just move somehow.
Yeah. Without the doubter, without this doubting, there's this freedom. You simply don't, by not knowing what you are not, the doubter is gone. So you have nothing to lose or nothing to gain anymore. That's freedom. Because there's no one who can gain something or lose something. Without this one, who cares? And then there's this free floating, what you would say, like Nisargadatta said, this is wisdom and heart, but between that I'm floating. And both are my extreme realizations, but I'm free floating as that absolute seer, which is never depending on anything. That is Ramana too. Be that what is the absolute experiencer. And this absolute experiencer is never depending on any experience. That's all. Whatever is an experience is not different from that what is the experiencer, but it's not the experiencer itself. So
Yeah, I mean, people saw him as this great saint sitting on a couch, but in fact, he was quite happy sitting in the kitchen for hours just cutting vegetables.
yeah, exactly. But as I sit every morning 10 to 12 talking to people, it's like cutting vegetables. Nothing special about it. And this, just to talk without any results, without any expecting some result of it. This taste, this nakedness of results, of expectation. Who knows? Maybe it's somebody picks it up. Or the self gets this taste, and in this taste it sees, oh, this is it's not so bad. So I'm a running advertisement for that tastelessness of what is self. So freedom is running freely to advertise freedom.
Yeah, this is one of your but you see, this is one of your brilliant ways of expression, you know, because that is very evocative somehow.
Yeah, it should be attractive, totally attractive. So I'm a flower that doesn't care if you like me or not.
Right. You're the flower in the middle of the forest that just flowers, and
Yeah,
who sees it?
doesn't expect being seen and appreciated as beautiful or not. So this is maybe the absolute intelligence who doesn't care to be intelligent or not. No idea. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so this is maybe not so appropriate, but anyway. At the end of his book, Self-Inquiry, Ramana says, he who is thus endowed with a mind that has become subtle and who has the experience of the self is called a Jivan Mukta. Is this the state that can be called self-realized?
The fourth state, what Ramana meant by the fourth state of the natural state of the self, is a selflessness, where the self doesn't even know if the self is or not. The absolute absence of any sense of existence or non-existence. If this is the freedom of the idea of freedom. This is the freedom or the absence of any idea of bondage or anything. So this is even the absence of the idea of existence. So this absolute existence, which is even or is not aware of anything, to be or not to be. This is what he would call Jiva Moksha, or this fourth state, which is not a state anymore. Actually, it's a statelessness. And then this is what he meant in it.
Yeah, maybe I should just read on. Actually, he goes on to say, and when one is immersed in the ocean of bliss and has become one with it, without any differentiated existence, one is called a Viha Mukta. It is the state of Miha Mukta that is referred to as the transcendent Turiya. This is the final goal. Is this the state that can be called enlightenment? So in a way, this question is asking whether there's any difference between self-realization and enlightenment. Are these somehow different?
There is a difference. Because enlightenment, I would say now the scientists found out that no antimatter and matter are like running the universe, or that what is form and non-form, like together. And when enlightenment happens, this form and non-form is a fusion of it. And in this fusion, the light of awareness remains. And even the scientists say, now then out of this fusion comes light, pure light. So they now can produce antimatter for whatever, in magnetic fields or something, and then make it fusion again with matter, and out comes light. It's a primal source of both, of form and non-form. So this what you would call enlightenment. This experience, becoming out of the form and non-form, going to become that what is light. The light of awareness, of this primal light as Arunachala. That you would call enlightenment. But then to see that even this light, as first awareness, the first notion of existence without time or no time, even that is not what you are. So and then turning totally around to that what is prior to that first notion of existence. That is realization. The first is enlightenment, and then out of this enlightenment, being this primal light, there is or is not. Maybe most of it come back to it, to the form and non-form. But then to stay in that light, and then even to see that the seer is not even that what is light, that even the light is being seen as an experience, as a primal experience of existence, but still that is not what you are. So even this circumstance of awareness is still a circumstance, as a third, like a third state, the first state. But prior to that state is the statelessness itself, which is that what is the absolute seer, which has no form or non-form or even light. So that first light, as a primal source, is not even that what you are. So even that definition is not what you are. So out of this I, primal light as awareness, comes I am, and then I am so-and-so. But all these three states are the dream of that absolute dreamer self. So even the first dreamer as I, as awareness, is, or experiencer as I, it's a sensation already. It's phenomenal. But the phenomenon as that what is self is in all phenomenal states what it is. So it can never be changed. So the fourth state is that state to be the self, without even knowing that there is a self or not. This is a total not knowing, non-knowing, or whatever it's called. The total absence of a knower or non-knower. That is a Turiya somewhere.
Yeah, he says transcendent Turiya.
Yeah. The further it goes to enlightenment to this primal light as cosmic consciousness, but then even to transcend that, to be that what is prior to that even, what is consciousness. To be that what is consciousness, in essence. That I would call the realization that that what you are is ever realized. So this is nothing new or old. This is your very nature. And nothing has to be done for it or not done for it. All comes out of this. This is the very source of whatever is and is not. And without this, nothing would be or not be. And you are that, that's all.
Okay. It appears essential to meet a guru and stay with that guru. Who is the guru? What is the guru's role? How to recognize a true guru? Perhaps you don't agree even with this first point. It appears essential to meet a guru and stay with that guru.
If this comes into your mind, into your whatever, if this is like if this comes as for you a reality, that you need a guru, and this guru has to be this kind of guru, and has to fit into this perception of what you call a guru, it is a perfect thing for you to go after this guru. I would not doubt it. Because it's unique, always. This relationship between that what is a jiva, as an ignorant self, and that what is a self, which is maybe the jnani, as a guru, is always unique. You cannot make a rule out of it. So whatever is in this is magic. So to make any technique or any standard of it needs one who needs a standard. But in this there is all mystic and really some mystical tour of a disciple-guru relationship. I cannot make a comment on it. It's always perfect. It's always adjusting to that very need of that what is the jiva and that what is the jnani. So there is no question for me. What is the right or wrong guru? There is only the right guru, because only the self is. And there is no wrong self. So the self appearing as a guru and appearing as a disciple, playing this game of disciple-guru, is perfect in whatever way it comes and goes. So for me, there is simply no question of a right or wrong guru, and what to do and how to recognize one. See, it will show it by itself, but not by any rule. So the only rule I know is that there is no rule. I can only point to the point that this completeness of what you are, whatever comes out of it, whatever relationship is complete in itself and doesn't need any commenting on it.
Yeah. And in your own case, did you have some guru?
not in a living, like whatever, living guru, like in person or something. But in the 60s, 70s, I had so many dreams about teachers and coming into the dreams and energetic things, countless. So even I went to Mexico in this Castaneda idea, thinking all these teachers who came to the dream are in Mexico and South America, but they all look like Indians, but not from India, from South America. So I went to go for this freedom in Mexico and something. But then when I saw in the early 90s, I saw Nisargada's photo somewhere. Oh, India. And then I came to India and then I saw Ramana in Bombay, a photo only. And then the mountain, oh, it is India, not Mexico. What can I do? And then one night in Bombay, there was Ramana sitting on the bed and didn't let me sleep. Always, be Ramana, be Ramana, be Ramana, be what you are, be what you are, be Ramana. So I booked a flight to Tiro and next day I was here. To Bangalore, of course, not to Tiro. Thanks God we had not an airport here.
And how long ago was that?
This was 95, I think.
Right.
But actually, it was not something like something happens in here. I just recognized that 15 years ago the mountain came into this dream I had in the late 70s when this death experience happened. So this, what would call maybe enlightenment to this primal light, to become that what is this primal light of awareness. But then running around for 15 years or 10 years, being that light, still identified with this light, and the rest is all a dream. Everybody knows this situation, I am the light and this is all dream. So it's still a definition running. And then on one, whatever, tick, out of the blue, but light and difference, how can that be in that what I am? How can it be a different state of that what you are? Can there be a natural state or an unnatural state for that what you are? Is that what you are not that what is the source? And then no state can be a natural state. And then this was, I was called, then in that light, was in all other states the same. There was simply no difference. So even the light was an illusion in that way. To call that whatever enlightenment or, because I was very proud of being this light. But then it was making clear, it will never be your enlightenment or realization. And that what is self doesn't need your realization at all. And be that simply what is, without anyone who claims to be or not to be, whatever realized or not.
And that aha, did that happen here at the hill?
Yeah, actually it's happened here. The very first time I was here. Simply by recognizing, going into the lower cave and meditating there and going into the mountain. And first, as Ramana said, there's these landscapes coming. And then when you come closer, it becomes total light. And out of this primal light, all the creation comes up, like sculptures or everything, and goes back to it. So it comes out of this light and drops back to it. And all this infinite creation force of the universe even, whatever you think. But then to go dive into this light with your perception, and seeing even this light is not what you are, because you are this free experiencer, where even is diving to this primal light and then to form again and this. So this what you are, the absolute seer, is absolutely free. So even free from the circumstance of light. So even the light, the first beginning of this universe, is part of the experience, of your realization. You are that what is realizing itself by perceiving it. But you're never part of this realization. So you're always free as that experiencer as you are. And then you can be in this body-mind organism or as in universe or in this awareness. It doesn't matter. You are always that what you are in whatever circumstance. You don't need any special circumstance. That was the freedom of any special circumstance, even as awareness, to be in there and all this, making this effort to be in the samadhi of awareness or something. Because it's still whatever subtle effort there of understanding. There is something, some need of understanding or clarity to stay there. But to see that this clarity, again, is depending on one who needs this clarity. But the real independence of whatever, this freedom, what is freedom, could not need anything. And that to be that freedom, which is in any state what it is, then it was, okay, whatever. So the mountain is quite a thing. So for me it was always perfect. The whole timing, the whole process was simply out of the blue, not by me doing anything. That's why I call it grace. It's only, as I can see it, it was all, every step was totally perfect in itself, unfolding itself to perfection, and even the unfolding was perfect in itself. So in this I see everything. There is only perfection unfolding itself into whatever form or circumstance. So it's wonderful.
You mentioned that some years ago you had what you called a death experience. Can you tell us something of that?
Yeah, there's a technique of Castaneda where you find your hands in dream. You simply remember that you dream, you see that you dream, and then you remember that you have to look at your hands. And that's remembering that you dream, that you simply wake up in this dream, and then you look at your hands and then you start to die. The whole flesh drops down and you really have this death experience. This death experience is like this, this infinite comes, this antimatter, this darkness. It's totally wanting to eat you. Because you become this awareness, the darkness comes, totally wants to eat you up. The death experience of this emptiness. So the emptiness comes as a non-form and eats you up. So you resist totally. You fight like hell for your life, for survival. No, not that. It's really like a fight against death. But at one point you wake up in your bed, or I woke up, and then still fighting this light or this whatever, this darkness. And one moment simply the resistance broke. I don't know why. Simply no resistance anymore. And then there was this acceptance, totally acceptance. And then there was this bright light only. This pure light. And to be that light. That was, and then for, I don't know how many hours, until the form came back and the body-mind organism and all this became natural again. But then from that moment on, this light was that what I was. So I took something what even that was not what I am. I took that as real. It's a natural state, and the rest was still nothing. Illusion. But then it took this years, when then all this body experiences happened, and all this whatever, side effects of energetic, whatever what one would call kundalini, or awakening of the cells and all this, and aging of everything, total, and the migraine and all this happened. And then there's always like many breakthroughs in this body. And then something is more freely running, and then it becomes this, and then comes something else. But after this final dropping of this aha, then there was this quietness.
In that death experience, you say that there was a moment when, the body and mind came back, but the I never came back. From that moment, there was never any sense of an I, me. The story had gone in that moment.
No, it became from a relative I to a universal I, maybe more. From a I in form, like a me, to a wonders I. So, but it was still an I there. It was this awareness I of I. So this I still is too much. And I was wandering for whatever 12, 15 years with this I. This I was my nature then, but this I is still not. Because this I is still not perfect. Because it's depending on some circumstance as awareness. But that what is awareness of awareness, that what is the self, is not depending on awareness to be the self. So to realize simply that even in that most, whatever difficulty of personal history, there was always this perceiver, this pure perceiver, as absolute perceiver, or the seer, which was never touched by any of these experiences. And was still this very same, the very self experiencer, and never moved 1 inch. That all these experiences, even the awareness experience and the light experience, are merely experiences. But the experiencer were the only nomenon in it. So even the light was a phenomenon. And then it dropped the whole idea that something has to be done or not done, or to stay in whatever state. But maybe to stay in this first, or the primal state of light, was like, that this can happen, I cannot say. That then the I can again drop, but it needs maybe some process in time as light, as a primal light, to drop totally. So that is maybe like Ramana said, sitting for 15 years in the cave. With the first thing it was clear, you are not whatever, you are, but then it needs some side effects to the I to be totally erased. Like the total annihilation as a process, whatever. But it made no difference. So there was no change. It was just like a body or consciousness effects. So then Ramana was asked, was there anything after the instant of when you were 17, was that experience? No, from that on it was clear. Whatever came after is as it came, but made no difference. So even then maybe the mind gets clarified, or purification, or whatever comes up, but this all doesn't matter. No one cares anymore about what happens. But it happens something, and always unique, depending on that what was before, as a pattern you came from, or whatever. So it's a running stone who runs for a while, and then before it's totally still. But without necessity. If it would run forever, it would be okay too. But it's strange, because everybody has this death experience, total death experience, like a very physical thing, experience, and then to see that what you are cannot be touched by death. So it will not be born. So that what you are cannot be born, because it cannot die. Only that thing that are born can die. So you are not born. That's all. So this is not knowing what you are, or if you are, but you're simply not born. But this is evident that you don't need any evidence to be. This is always self-evident. Whatever happens is a self-evidence that you are, but you not knowing what you are. But simply saying that that cannot touch you. So when that cannot touch you, you must be unborn. And that what is unborn can never die. And can never be moved. That was actually exactly as Ramana's experience.
When he said at the end of his life, when people asked him at the end of his life, don't go, don't go, he said, well, where can I go? Yeah.
Where to go? No place to go and no place to leave. That was meant by it, by being that what is the very essence of all. Where should the essence go to? It's like when Rama said, what you see is not what I am. So this what you see as Ramana never realized anything. But that what is Ramana as a self is ever realized. So for that nothing is to do. But that for that what something is to do, can't do anything. So it's a no-winning situation you are in. But you may play. But don't expect to win. That is meditation without expectation. This is living without any results, because nothing can be added to that what you are. And then it becomes pure sport, or entertainment, or whatever. Whatever comes, it's good enough to be entertained by.
Yeah, it's like a divine leela, divine playfulness.
Yeah.
Goes on and on.
Never started, never will end. So out of a thinking mind becomes a working mind, that's all. Without a thinker, it becomes a working mind, like a functioning of whatever. That's all. With the dropping of this I, or the seeing the I thought as phantom and giving it not, there is no thinker anymore. And without a thinker, there is no mind. So there is a consciousness in action. And then you are this totality of functioning of consciousness in whatever action. And then there is no doubter anymore, no questioner, when there's a question. So there are questions and answers, but no questioner and no answer. So it's a play of consciousness, without any results, any expectation of any clarification. Because it can't get more clear as it already is. Words. But I like words, I love words. Words are really magnificent. Or what
But you have a wonderful way with words, you know. I mean, it's quite extraordinary that some of the poetry, it's like poetry. Poetry of the self sometimes comes out, yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I'm always like this, sitting beside myself and listening to myself. And by action, by whatever intention I split a bit, become schizophrenic that I can listen to that what I say. Yeah. So I become the talk, that what was talking and that what is listening at the same time and enjoying it totally, without any separation.
And somehow it feels like these two parts of you meet in the laughter, you know, because, you know, actually you're quite a serious guy and the things you're saying are incredibly serious, but there's this amazing laughter. And I don't know, but it's like one part is laughing at the other part.
Yeah, it's a permanent joke.
Yeah.
There's a serious Carl speaking serious things as a permanent joke.
Right.
And there's a permanent laughter in the back. Laughing at that joke, what is Carl.
Right.
But it's not different from the self. So Carl is the self, and the self from behind the awareness laughing about that self, what is serious in front of it. It's like a multi-dimensional self sitting here. And it's pure joy in a way. All the way. From the whatever statelessness to the first state of I, then to the I am and I am Carl. All the way absolute. And enjoying to be absolute. Totally independent of anything. Even as Carl, or I am, or I. Totally independency all the way. Freedom all the way. Even imprisoned by freedom cannot be imprisoned by that what you are. Wonderful. Great. Yeah. Self is great only.
Seekers often have curious ideas about the enlightened state. For example, that the enlightened one sees the world as a grey nothing, because there's no world, yeah? While sitting in eternal bliss. Please describe your typical day and how you perceive the world.
Actually, there is no difference when I was 10, 5, 1 year old. There is deep sleep, and out of the deep sleep there is some, whatever, awakening into some sensation, and then out of the sensation some day by day action happen. Teeth brushing or whatever. It's a normal day, but never with a sense of doing it. That's the main point. It's an absolute functioning in itself, without any, it's an automatic. So it's the same as always, simply without the sense of me doing it. A simple self-running process of a day-by-day life, or moment by moment more. It's like this eternal now which never stops, never comes. Because even in deep sleep there's this eternal now. There's this awareness that what self is, which never sleeps and never is awake. So that what is self is never sleeps, never wakes up. So in this what is self, there's an awakening of some phenomena. And this phenomena is an automatic running of a process of functioning of consciousness, whatever you call it. And then at night, it goes back to sleep again. So out of the I am so-and-so, the so-and-so drops to the I am, and then the I am to the awareness, and even the awareness sometimes into this. And then the awareness starts again, and then there is awareness, and then comes I am again as space-time, and then in this infinite space of time there comes this day. as waking up in the morning and, oh, here I am again. It's always like at evening you go to sleep by saying, oh, if I don't see you tomorrow, it was nice meeting you. And you wake up in the morning, oh, you again. Okay. Have a nice day anyway. No idea. It's a normal action-reaction day, as consciousness is functioning. Nothing special. And that's the main thing. Nothing is special.
And the bliss, there's a lot of bliss, so in that sense something is special or something is different from before?
No.
Not particularly.
No.
It can be sadness,
No.
unhappiness, anything.
No. It's actually the absence of one who is in bliss or not in bliss, which is the absolute bliss. This absence of one who needs bliss or no bliss, or is special or unspecial, or is lucky or unlucky, or this absence of one who is happy or unhappy, this bliss, which is the tastelessness of bliss, which is not a taste of bliss, which is to be that what is bliss. And bliss is the absence of one who needs or doesn't need bliss. So it's simply the total absence of any need. But this is not a taste of bliss like what one would expect out of bliss, like a sensation bliss. Because this is not a sensation at all. This is simply the absolute being that what is peace itself. So I would call it even more, it's more like a total immense peace. And I wouldn't swap it for any bliss in the world. So I can do perfectly without that what one would call bliss. I would never swap it from that what is the peace of the self, to be that what is. Because this is the absolute peace. Be that what is peace. Totally in peace with oneself, by being that what is. If this is bliss, or the Satchitananda where Ramana talks about, okay, then this Satchitananda, which is self-awareness, total self-awareness of the absolute existence of what one is, in the total absence of a second self, if this is a bliss, what would be called bliss, okay, this bliss is permanent. There's nothing to do for. This was always there. This is nothing new. So it's not a special state or anything. This is your nature, and nothing can be added to it. This is simply the total quality of being that what has no second. No coming, no going. And this is nothing what can be gained. This is what one is all the time, without time, with time. Nothing can spoil it. There was only once the idea this was lost. And in the idea that this was lost, it was simply not seen, because you were looking for something to be seen. But then you see that the seer himself is bliss. To be that what is the absolute seer is bliss enough. And this completeness of that being that what is absolute cannot get more or less. That's all. Everlasting. No way out.
Well, thank you. I don't have any more questions. Is there anything you would like to add that you feel we didn't kind of cover that's important for you to express?
No, actually, I'm totally helpless without a question, because so it's like a karmic consciousness, which needs an active action and a question to give an active answer. Without a question, there is no answer. So as from the late 70s, when this happens, this whatever light, this primal light experience, from that moment, and when a question popped up, there was an answer simply, without any effort. That was so amazing. This automatic answering machine. It's totally fascinating. Sitting totally quiet, making no effort, and out of this effortlessness, an effort of a question pops up, and this question alone, there was an answer. Oh, and then it dissolved. Question, answer, boom. But without any Because the effortlessness was not more or less before or after. So it made no effort, made no effect on that effortlessness. But it was amazing to see this automatic popping coming up in the same way as the answer. And it's now in these talks. The question comes up and the answer is already there. So there's nothing to do. The effortlessness remains effortless. That what is called bliss, maybe. Being the laziest under the laziest. Never doing anything, but being the very source of whatever is and is not. It's okay, yeah? Okay.
So it all dissolves into laughter in the end.
Yeah, yeah.